the 7th chapter. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So from the Hari Bhakti Vilas, which we usually say is written by Sanatana Goswami, but actually Gopal Bhatt Goswami had a great deal to do with it. So in there, the Skanda Purana is mentioned about where Skanda Purana glorifies Bhagavad Gita. This is another one of those verses. So we can recite this together. Gita Dhyanam Pathed Yastu Slokam Slokadaram Vivacha Yati Vishnu Param.
By reading a chapter, a verse, or even half a verse from Bhagavad Gita, one is liberated from all sins and attains the topmost destination of Lord Vishnu's planets.
What an amazing verse. Even reading a chapter, a verse, or even half a verse. So today, hopefully, if we get there, we're going to learn one line from the Bhagavad Gita, which is one of the lessons. So let's see if we get there. So just a very, very short summary. Now, yesterday, Madhusudan Prabhu did a very nice overview of chapters 1 and 2. And the way he did it was very interactive, and actually it was quite memorable as well. So I think once we finish the whole of the Gita, because one of the aims of this is to actually give the devotees an opportunity to know what is in the whole Gita, then we'll go into each chapter, like I think you did, Madhusudan, that was useful. So a quick short summary of where we are. We've just finished the first 6 chapters, and the theme of the first 6 chapters is Karma Yoga, the general theme. In the first chapter, we are all aware that Krishna's main man, the chief commander, Arjun, decided he didn't want to fight due to weakness of heart. He saw across the other side his grandfather and his uncles and his gurus, and he decided that this was not something he wanted to do. But luckily, he had the sense to ask Krishna for help. And in the 2nd chapter, Krishna reveals many things to him. In fact, summarizes the whole Gita. It tells him his identity as a spirit soul, his duties as a soul, and as well as having a body. What are the duties of one who is an army man, who is a Kshatriya? And also, what is the nature of the person who does his duties? So Krishna also described the ideal person. And then Krishna explained a little bit more to Arjun, because Arjun was saying, well, how can I work in this situation? How can I do my duty? Because I have to kill so many people. So Krishna said, yes, you can do your duty, but you can at the same time be renounced. So that's chapter 3, Karma Yoga. You do your duty, but you also don't become too attached to the fruits of your labor. And that way you also set an example to the world, and you avoid sinful activities. Then in the 4th chapter, Krishna explains about how knowledge is passed down, his mission on earth, the different types of actions, and different ways of acquiring knowledge, or the importance, of acquiring knowledge, especially through the spiritual master. And then Arjuna again asks him, well, you're saying knowledge is better than working. Is that what you mean? And Krishna is explaining again, no, I am saying to you that you must do your duty, but at the same time, don't be attached to your duty. And in fact, do it for the pleasure of Krishna. So chapter 5 is a little different from chapter 3. They're both about Karma Yoga, but chapter 5 describes Karma Yoga in Krishna consciousness, very, very close to bhakti. And then, because Krishna is understanding that Arjun is still looking to, perhaps thinking about still renouncing the battle and going perhaps to the forest, he explains to him the process of Astanga Yoga and how to control the mind. And this is where Arjun becomes finally convinced, no, I can't do this. So then Krishna explains to them that that's right, you can't do that. But what you can do is Bhakti Yoga. And Bhakti Yoga is what is the flavor of the next 6 chapters. So in the middle part is Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga is protected by karma and jnana in the middle of the Bhagavad Gita. And just another way of looking at these different yogas, because we've mentioned three: karma yoga, we've mentioned Astanga yoga, we've mentioned bhakti yoga. What are they? So a little different angle. Karma yoga is essentially when we employ our senses, our hands, our eyes, our nose, etc., and connect them to God. And Astanga yoga is where we connect our mind in a contemplative mood towards God. That's Astanga yoga. And that's why Krishna emphasized how to meditate for long periods of time, sitting down, eyes closed, which Arjuna said to him is not possible for me. And then Gyan yoga is where we connect our intelligence. What is the truth? What is illusion? I am, what am I? The body, the soul. You try to eliminate different things and use your intelligence to connect to God. And then Bhakti yoga is actually where you try to connect your sensory, your mental, your intellectual, and your emotional capacity to God. So everything is included. You're trying to connect God with an intention to develop love for Him. And Bhakti yoga, just like a 50-pound note already includes a 10-pound note and a 20-pound note. Bhakti yoga includes all of the other yogas because we're trying to connect completely to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, not just to the senses, the mind, or the intellect. So in this chapter, 7th chapter, what Krishna is describing is himself for the first time. So far, and generally, Krishna is very humble. He doesn't advertise himself as God. He doesn't take an advert out in the Times newspaper, I am God. But in order to help convince us who he is, he's describing himself to Arjuna. A little part. This is knowledge of the absolute. That's the name of the chapter. And where we can find him, how we can cross over this world. And he's also explaining the effects of worshipping others. And there are 4 themes in this chapter. The first is how we can get to know God through the hearing process. Second theme is Krishna gives an idea of where he is present in this world. So we can, whenever we see an item, we can actually be reminded of Krishna. Then the third theme is the types of people that approach him and the types of people who don't approach him. Very interesting to understand that. And we can try to understand which category we fall into. And then he also describes the worship of others other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Devatas, for example. What is the impact of worshipping others? Does it mean if I worship demigods, I get the same result as worshipping Krishna? So he explains that in great detail. Well, not great detail, some detail. So let's start with the chapter. Actually, Aruna, would you like to read? There's only 3 verses before.
Sure.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare-
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "Now hear, O son of Parth, how by practicing yoga in full consciousness of me, with mind attached to me, you can know me in full, free from doubt." I'm using the book, sorry.
That's fine.
I shall now declare unto you in full this knowledge, both phenomenal and nominal.
Numinous.
Nominous, this
Yeah.
being known. Nothing further shall remain for you to know. Text 3. Out of many thousands of among men, one may endeavor for perfection, and of those who have achieved perfection, hardly one knows me in truth.
Thank you very much, Aruna. That's the first 3. And then you can carry on a bit later.
Okay.
Very good. Thank you for reading. And actually, thank you, because if you're reading from the book, it's good because we need to make sure that what we've got on the computer matches what's on the book. So
Sure.
that's really good. I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
I'm
So,
a bit nervous though.
no, you were fine. You were absolutely fine. Very, very nice. Thank you very much. Yeah?
Thank you.
So the summary of these 3 verses, Krishna wants us to know him And the first thing he says is, Tashanu, hear about me, hear. And although it is so difficult that hardly anybody can know Krishna, because if you look at text number 3, he's saying, out of thousands among men, one may endeavor for perfection. And then out of those who have achieved perfection, hardly one knows me in truth. So even if one becomes perfect, doesn't necessarily mean one knows Krishna in truth. You may have some idea, but not necessarily in truth. So, however, the practice of bhakti yoga, through the practice of bhakti yoga, we can get to know the Lord in full. And the process begins by hearing about him. This is what the first verse of the chapter 7 actually says. It's a very, very interesting start to Bhakti Yoga section of the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna is saying, hear, by hearing about me. He's saying, Maya Shakta Manaha Partha. So your mind can become attached to me if you tachranu. Yatha Ganeshu, Ganeshyasi, tachranu. Hear about me. So the lesson, which is number 28 now, is that we can engage in the 9 different processes of Bhakti Yoga to make us closer to Krishna. Now, if we love somebody, then we would want to hear about them. Right? We would always want to hear about them. One of the most important things is hearing. This sound vibration. When Brahma first was created by Garbhadaksha Vishnu, there was nothing in the universe. He meditated for a long, long time. And finally he heard 2 letters, 2 syllables, tapa, which means austerity. And he realized he has to do austerity. So hearing is so important. Prabhupada says, when there's a robber in the house, you won't be able to see him because if it's dark at night, but you might be able to hear him. So hearing is very, very important. It said that hearing captures the mind. And that's what Krishna is saying in this first chapter. And now hear, O son of Pratha, how by practicing yoga in full consciousness of me, with mind attached to me, you can know me in full, free from doubt. So hearing can capture our attention, can capture our minds. When we hear classes, when we hear our own chanting, when we hear kirtan, bhajans, that actually starts this process of bhakti. And there's 9 different processes. Let's just quickly go through those. We're not going to have time to go through too much. But there's hearing, Shravanam. There's a special verse in the Bhagavatam. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Padasevanam Achanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakyam Atma Nivedam. And there, basically, the 9 processes are, if we love somebody, we want to hear about them, we want to talk about them. So we chant Krishna's glories. That's Shravanam. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu. We'll remember that person. Smaranam. Padaseva, will serve that person. Maybe even massage their feet. Archanam, we would worship them. Always be thinking about them. Vandanam, we'll be praying to them, especially if they're exalted. And Dasya, we become their servant. Sakyam, make friendship with them. Atma Nivedam, give them everything. Reminds you a little bit of a boy and a girl meeting. When they meet, the boy will always want to hear so much about the girl, and then he'll be singing about her glories in the bathroom maybe, always remembering. And when he gets an opportunity, he'll try to serve her. He'll always be worshipping, putting her on the altar of his heart, praying to her, please marry me, and serving her, getting her prasad, etc., making friends with her, and actually giving everything to her. So in the same way, although it's not mundane, with Krishna, it's transcendental. And with Krishna, we get to know him, an ultimate benefit. We get liberated. We get away. Telling your own story. Not quite.
That's not how it worked.
No, mom and dad introduced us. But somehow it survived. A few years anyway. So, so this is an important lesson. The 9 processes of Bhakti Yoga, any of these, if we can perfect ourselves, we will achieve the highest destination. And an example is this. Parikshit Maharaj, simply by hearing, perfected his life. Bhagavatam, yeah, thank you. Sukadev Goswami, he chanted the Bhagavatam to Parikshit Maharaj, and he perfected his life. Prahlad Maharaj constantly remembered the Lord, even when he was happy, unhappy, didn't matter. He perfected his life. Lakshmi Devi perfects her life by massaging the Lord's lotus feet. Maharaj Prithu, he's in the 4th canto of the Bhagavatam. He did glorious deity worship, perfected his life. Akru, he went to Mathura, from Mathura to Vrindavan. He perfected his life by prayers to the Supreme Lord. And Hanuman, the greatest servant of Lord Ramachandra, perfected his life in service. And look at this. Arjun perfected his life by being a great friend of Krishna's. And there's Bali Maharaj, who completely gave everything to Vaman Dev when he came to take everything away from him. He even gave his own head, surrendered everything. And there's one devotee called Ambarish Maharaj, who perfected all these 9. But even if we just perfect just one of these processes, hearing nicely or chanting nicely, remembering nicely, it's enough to take us back to the spiritual world.
And hearing is actually one of the most important senses, because even when the baby is in the womb, the baby hears everything. So that it's very important to. So it's extremely important really to make sure the baby is listening to the right things, and also when someone's in a coma, it's also advised that they can still hear you. And so at that time also you should be, playing the right sort of things that they can hear. So hearing is the last sense actually that goes.
And just in case people don't like pictures so much, this is all in words. Exactly what you've just heard, just in a different format. So I'll share this with the notes. So Madhumangal Prabhu? Madhusudan Prabhu? Would you like to?
No, yeah. Any relationship has to start somewhere.
Good.
And you start by, first of all, finding out about the person, isn't it? Even in material concept, when we have relationships, they start somewhere. If you don't know about the person, you can't have a relationship. You got to start somewhere. Mm-hmm. And then you hear about the person, and then you gradually find out a little bit more. Then there are the personal aspects of one person, and then impersonal aspects as well. Just like, my name is in the bank, the bank account. The tax office has my name as well. And there's so many different places. These are all impersonal features. You can find out about me by going to social media, and they'll be impersonal. But you won't know me personally unless you start to get in touch with me and start to build a relationship. So yeah, hearing is the starting point, and we're lucky, we're 2 ears in one mouth. That's the reason. Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
Other devotees in how these devotees have got a perfected life by understanding how they related with Krishna, like Hanuman, Arjuna and Bali Maharaj, they're so great devotees, looking at their examples. So it's always learning by other people's example that we can also learn. Yeah, okay, good.
Thank you very much. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Any questions on this? Anything you'd like to share? Maybe you've heard something. If not, we can.
Hare Krishna, sorry. I have something to say. Yeah, it's like what this Madhusudan Prabhu said, like you usually hear maybe from someone or somewhere about a certain personality, and then, you know, it either draws you or repels you. And I've heard like from pure devotees, like sannyasis, they, you know, they seem to know, from their gurus, they'll know pastimes of Krishna, and they're the ones who like end up bringing those pastimes to you, whether verbally or in the books. And yeah, then that way you're whether it will draw you closer to someone or not. So in this case, Krishna. So yeah, I do believe it, you know, it will come from reading or hearing. So yeah,
Actually,
good point.
you made a phenomenal point yourself, because hearing from the right source is very, very important. Prabhupada used to say that if we hear from the wrong source, say we hear that from somebody who believes that we can merge with God, it's almost like milk which has been touched by a poisonous snake. Even if it's milk, you drink that milk, it's going to poison you. But if we hear from the right source, then that hearing can be it can touch the heart, and it can really develop the faith very, very fast. For example, Prabhupada, when he started preaching, can you imagine the scene? The Americans, the hippies, they've just come off on a high. All night they've been up, smoking and having drinks and drugs and whatever else. They come to Prabhupada in the morning, he's giving class. He's giving it in with a Bengali accent, a thick Bengali accent. He's giving them a philosophy which they would never have heard before. And words like Ishwara, Parama, Krishna, I mean, where is this all going? But they were hearing from a pure devotee. And it actually transformed their lives because of that fact that they were hearing from a pure devotee. And look at what happened. I think next week is the incorporation of ISKCON 50 odd years back. Can we, yeah, 50 odd, 52, yeah, 50 odd. Yeah. So can we imagine ISKCON like this at the time when Prabhupada was setting it up? Incredible. But the purity was there. And because of that purity, Krishna just gave everything to him. And through him to his disciples. So Nani Ben, did you have something to say?
Yes, I was talking to somebody about this 9 process of devotional services, and that poor lady told me that it's so sad that her hearing is going and it will be gone completely now. So
yes.
I felt sad, but I did say that there are other ways are there.
Correct. That's right. The other 9. Reading.
Yes.
She can chant.
Yes.
She can make friends with the Lord. She become a servant. She can do arti. She can offer.
Yes.
In fact, when one is in a desperate situation, desperately bad health, or desperately, impoverished, that is your opportunity to really take shelter of the Lord and make incredible advancement, because you are going to pray from the heart. And we will see that in the 3rd theme when Krishna describes who approaches him. So that's a good point, Nani Ben. The beauty of Bhakti Yoga is you can approach it from so many different angles.
Yes.
Ashtanga Yoga, we're very restricted. Gyan Yoga, you're very restricted. But Bhakti Yoga can convert anything into Bhakti. Just add Krishna to it. Thank you for sharing that, Nani Ben.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
So let's see if we can squeeze in the next theme. Yeah. So maybe Aruna, would you like to continue reading? You're welcome to. Aruna, you there? or maybe Nani Ben, you'd like to read? Or Pretty? Everybody's fallen asleep, haven't they?
Oh,
Hare Krishna,
yeah.
Prabhu.
Yes, you can read, yes.
Nani Ben.
Nani Ben, yeah.
Oh, Aruna's coming.
Should I read?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. All together, these 8 constitute my separated material energies. Besides this, O mighty armed Arjuna, there is another superior energy of mine, which comprises the living entities for exploiting the resources of this material inferior nature. All created beings have their source in these 2 natures. Of all that is material and all that is spiritual in this world, know for certain that I am both the origin and the dissolution. Text 7. O conqueror of wealth, there is no truth superior to me. Everything rests upon me, as pearls are strung on a thread. Text 8. O son of Kunti, I am the taste of water, the light of the sun and the moon, the syllable Om in the Vedic mantras. I am the sound in ether and ability in man. Text 9.
Just before we move on, Nani Ben, sorry.
Yeah.
This number 7, if you see, it says, there's no truth superior to me. Everything rests upon me as pearls are strung on a thread. We can see how this world is so nicely organized, but we actually don't see the Lord.
Yes.
Like in a necklace, you don't see the thread, but you know the thread is there because it's holding everything. So anyway, just wanted to make that point.
I can't see your screen. I'm just reading from the Veda base.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, go for it.
It's okay, yeah.
Go
So text 8. O son of Kunti, I am the taste of water, the light of the sun and the moon, the syllable Om in the Vedic mantras. I am the sound in ether and ability in man. Text 9. I am the original fragrance of the earth, and I am the heat in fire. I am the life of all that lives, and I am the pendencies of all ascetics. Text 10. O son of Prutha, know that I am the original seed of all existences, the intelligence of the intelligent, and the prowess of all powerful men. Text 11. I am the strength of the strong, devoid of passion and desire. I am sex life, which is not contrary to religious principles, O Lord of the Bharata Arjuna. Text 12. Know that all states of being, be they of goodness, passion, or ignorance, are manifested by my energy. I am, in one sense, everything, but I am independent. I am not under the modes of the material nature, for they, on the contrary, are within me. Text 13.
That's it. Thank you very much. So that's the end of this theme, where Krishna is describing where he can be found in this world. But he's also very nicely saying, I am not under the modes of material nature, for they, on the contrary, are within me. So the summary of this, many people argue, can you show me God? I can't see him, so he doesn't exist. It's a very common argument in this West, and now also in the East. Of course, can we see air? No. So it doesn't exist? Of course it exists because we're breathing. So in the same way, we can see great order in this world. The planets in the sky or in the space are not clashing with each other, but there are no traffic lights out there either. There's a controller who has organized it in such a beautiful way. The sun rises every morning, sets every evening. This wonderful order has come about because there's a hand behind that order. Just because we can't see that hand, it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. just means that we don't have the vision to see it. Just like you can't see air, but we know it's there. So that Krishna very nicely explains, he's the thread behind the pearl necklace. So we can't see him necessarily, but we should understand that he's there. He's designed it, created it, sustaining it, and he yet will remain, because of his humility, invisible to the immature observer. Now, if we consider the extreme intricacy and sophistication of this creation, we know that there is a higher intelligence who's made it happen. And further, Krishna also explains how he is the essence of everything within the creation, the taste of water, for example, this light of the sun, the ability in man. In this way, through the eyes of knowledge, one can learn to see God everywhere. So when Prahlad Maharaj was asked by his father, where is your God? And Prahlad Maharaj answered, Vishnu is everywhere. And this is a 5-year-old boy who had access to Narad Muni just once in his life, even before he was born. Yet he was Divyagyani. He was he understood scripture. He understood the position of the Supreme Lord. So we should understand that God is present everywhere. We may not have the eyes to see him. But what we can do is we can remember him often. Lesson 29 is every time we drink water, which can be 10, 20 times a day, we can remember Krishna at that time. Raso aham apsu. Raso, taste, aham, I, apsu is water. I am the taste in water. So if we remember those 3 words, we're actually remembering Krishna's words, but we're also remembering where Krishna is. And we've just drunk some water, so we're also appreciating Krishna in that tasty water. I am the taste in water. That way we will be reminded of Krishna doing even ordinary activities. So this is one thing I wanted to share, that, no, actually you can share this because you were saying it the other day, every 15 minutes you can chant the name of Krishna.
Yeah, so, people say that, while we're working, what even walking, maybe shopping, you can't be chanting out loudly. So one thing is to get into the practice of saying Hare Krishna maybe every 15 minutes, and then once you get into that habit, yeah, maybe every 10 minutes, and then every 5 minutes, and then eventually it will be every breath. Actually, you'll be saying Hare Krishna, constantly. So that is another way to get to remember Krishna as well.
So how about it? Every time we drink water, even if you don't remember the Sanskrit, you can just say, Krishna is the taste of this water. It's a very nice meditation because it's also will show a sign of gratitude from our side. Not that we're just going to keep taking whatever Krishna is giving us without showing any sort of appreciation for his commitment to us.
We can just say, thank you, Krishna, for the water.
Yeah. It's always nice to repeat his words. So, Madhusudan Prabhu, anything you'd like to share?
Yeah, thank you again. And this is where we can experience Krishna, in everyday life.
Yes.
And, this verse also where Krishna says, there is no truth superior to me. And also, Prabhupada actually in that purport does explain that, there's a difference between experiencing God in a personal way and then rather than impersonal. So there are impersonalists and personalists. In the beginning, it's always very difficult for us to think, how can God be actually a person actually? And that's difficult. But so that's why there's impersonalists, who think God is everywhere and God is everything. So does it mean that everything is God then? And then does it mean that, and that's actually a dangerous philosophy, you know, with impersonalism and Mayavadi philosophy. Prabhupada always, you know, warns us, you know, of and that's why earlier on somebody made a comment, like you said, you know, hearing from the right source and hearing this Bhagavad Gita from a devotee, we can understand more, you know, about Krishna and then start to relate with Krishna. Because the impersonalism is dangerous, you know. It's like you said, you know, it's you're drinking milk touched by a serpent, you know, it's poison, you don't realize it's poison. So these philosophies, you know, like, so impersonalism there, you know, we've experienced, we were to a certain extent impersonal, you know, we saw God in everything, He's God. Then unless devotee starts to come into our life, the mercy of Prabhupada, or Guru, and then we start to realize God can actually be a person, you know. And Krishna is saying here that, you know, there's no truth superior than me. And I've had a lot of challenges in life, you know, during my preaching, in my Krishna consciousness, you know, people will come forward and challenge me. And there was a relative of mine who was into certain kind of Raj Yoga or something, and they always worship this particular light, meditate on this light, and they say this light is higher than Krishna, and then Krishna is just an ordinary person. It's like an all-pervading energy takes on a form of a human being, and that becomes Krishna, and that becomes us as well, and all that. And that gives them the authority to say that one day, if my consciousness expands to such a level that I can become God as well. If everything is God, then I'm God as well. It's because I'm part of everything. You know, it's a dangerous philosophy to start thinking, and then that leads us onto the wrong path, you know. But God is actually a person, and ultimately then, you know, like in our personal life, you can only have relationship with a personality. And you can only interact with a personality. And that's why we experience, you know, that when somebody passes away, like, you know, in Bhakti Charma, you know, we all related with him because there was Atma there, you know, that was the real personality. And after that, the body, you know, you can't, because it's part of everything, then it's matter. You can't relate with that anymore. And then, you know, so yeah, in order to experience Krishna in our everyday life, as we chant more and more and more, we start to experience, you know, Krishna in the taste of water, when we see the light of the sun. Then we realize actually, because I'm able to do things and I'm getting the intelligence to understand things and then do things and create whatever, you know, nice pizza or whatever you cook, the ability in man, that actually also is Krishna. Without Krishna's giving us the ability, we cannot do anything, you know. So we're so dependent on Krishna in that way. You start to then you start to appreciate Krishna in your life every day. Then you're thinking every day you wake up, oh, Krishna, another day, wonderful day, you know, thank you. You can start to say thank you. They just, it's a start, but actually, you know, we want to come to a point to say, oh, Krishna, what can I do for you today? How can I serve you?
Nice.
Not that I just want to thank you, you know, thank you. And then go one step further.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good point. That's a wonderful point. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Any comments, any questions? Do you think it's a good idea to perhaps this simple lesson every time we drink water?
Yeah, that's a very good, extremely good 3 words that we have learned today. And other thing,
yes,
when we were young, we were told that God is everywhere. So that concept is not true.
He is everywhere, but he's not in everything.
Yeah, he's everywhere, but he's not in. Yeah, he's everywhere though, isn't he?
Yeah. His presence is everywhere, but he's also personal. He's not just impersonal.
Yes. Yeah.
No.
And that's why it says, I am in them, but they're not in me, or something, you know, in that one verse.
That's,
in them. They are not in
That
them.
I am transcendent, transcend everything.
that's right. That's right. That's the
And,
Rasa.
that's exactly what I mean. We have this personal and Mayavad sort of understanding within us. And, most of the Hinduism, the concepts are like, too much. I mean, like I said, my own close relative argued with me for days. And when I presented this verse to him, here, Krishna is saying, there's no truth higher than me. So how can you say that this impersonal, all-pervading light energy is higher than Krishna?
Mm-hmm.
If you're saying that this light or this everythingness or this all-pervading energy is actually higher than Krishna, then Bhagavad Gita is wrong here. Then what he's saying here, Krishna is wrong. So are you right, or is Krishna right in Bhagavad Gita? Who should I believe? Who should I trust? But he kept arguing. He said, no, Krishna is just a human being. He just comes to earth, and he takes on a human form. But higher than Krishna is just this all-pervading, impersonal energy which exists in us, and we're all conscious, and then we all become, we are all God, so everything is God, so I'm God as well. And
That's the speculation, isn't it?
yeah, it's all speculating, because they're only speculating, unless
No. There's no basis. It's just thinking and wild thinking. There's no basis in Shastra for that.
So that's danger, So when you start listening I mean, because you read Prabhupada's books, you read Prabhupada's purpose, and you're understanding Krishna through a pure devotee like Prabhupada, then you won't like fall for this Mayavad philosophy. And when somebody is talking, you can actually pick out, hang on a minute, this doesn't sound proper, And I listened to some kathavachaks and all that, and suddenly I realized, where is that knowledge coming from? That doesn't sound right, That's like a Mayavad understanding or a concept in that.
It can be very subtle.
It's very subtle, but it's very, you can easily be misled. And
very dangerous.
Hearing from the right source is very important.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? Any questions? Any comments? Okay. Otherwise, we can go to. Thank you, Madhusudan Prabhu, and thank you, dear devotees. We will finish off, hopefully, chapter 7 tomorrow. And now we can go to the Nrsimha Kavach, Karuna Bandha. Let me just